Hello, 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 and welcome to this episode of Hear Their Voices, HTV. This is an Icon podcast, and I'm your host, Priscilla Onyedikachi Ozodo Acevedo. And it's such a joy and such a blessing to be back here with you on this podcast. For those of you who do not know Icon, and you just saw this clip somewhere, you clicked on it, and you're like, what is Icon? Well, Icon is the International Committee on Nigeria, and we promote human dignity, the right to live, religious freedom, and the protection of the vulnerable against all forms of persecution in Nigeria. And again, I'm your host, Priscilla, and it's such a joy to be here. I just want to say how much we love bringing this to you. We just coming from backstage, my producer, AJ, and my guests, we've just been having fun, and it's a joy. We talk about hard topics, but I want you to know that it's our joy and our pleasure to bring this to you. So some of you may have heard that ding. You may have received it on your phone, and that's to say that we are live. Now, do not watch this by yourself. We have decided that it is a criminal offense, that we have deemed a criminal offense for you to watch this podcast by yourself. So at this time, just go to your to your phone, click on where you receive the notification. Right now, I've received it from Facebook, and I'm just clicking that, and I'm going to share it. There's no reason why you should watch it by yourself. Okay, and I'm going to make that quiet. And I'm going to share it, okay? Just share. And I'm just going to share it on my page and say, join me now. And there we go. Posted. Very, very easy process right there. The other way you can share this is by going on YouTube. We love you to go on YouTube because we want to get all of our viewers right there on YouTube. So I will say, go to the YouTube link. I like to just, click share. My favorite place to share is my WhatsApp story. So I go to my WhatsApp story and, status. They call it status, not story. Okay, share that. And I just share to my friends and family. That's the easiest way to share. So again, it's a crime to watch this by yourself. Do not do that. Invite somebody to join you, and let's spread the word. Let's be the voice to spread the word of what's happening in Nigeria. So welcome again. Last week, we had my friend Lydia Blaha, a former U.S. Army captain and filmmaker extraordinaire, and we talked a lot about the role of those of us who are Nigerians in the diaspora and things that we can do right now to make a difference in the situation in Nigeria. Today, though, I'm super excited because I have another friend of mine who is going to be shedding some light on what the American perspective is. What does it look like to be a voice for this cause, even though you may feel like you're not connected to it at all? You're completely disconnected from the Nigerian story. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be here for like another half hour, and stick around and join us. And here are the announcements for this week. All right. Today's announcements, as I pull them up. First and foremost, would like to remind you that HTV is a podcast, which means while you can watch it here on Facebook or watch it on YouTube, first of all, as I say that, I want to remind you to join the conversation, leave us comments, leave us notices, questions. We love questions. Or if you have a story to share that we may not have talked about, or perspective that we may not have mentioned, please join the conversation. But beyond that, we are also streaming on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and more. So to find out, follow us on Instagram. We have this posted book. Just search for Hear Their Voices, Icon Podcast, and you should be able to stream and download the Icon HTV podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and more. Anywhere you get your podcasts, ladies and gentlemen, you can stream this podcast too. So shout out to those of you who are listening on a podcast. You might be going on a run or walking. Shout out to you. You may not have time on a Tuesday afternoon to watch this podcast, but you may have time while you're working out to listen to this podcast. This is where you should come in, okay? So we appreciate you, and we are excited. Here is the news of the week. And when I say appreciate you, I just want to quickly shout out those who watch and listen every single week. Thank you. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being part of this community. We see you, we hear you, and we love that we're doing this work together. Thank you for joining us. Okay, news of the week. I prepped with this last week, and I'm beginning to talk too much, but I just want to say that these are not things to discourage us. These are news items to encourage us to keep fighting, to keep moving forward. Because the first news is not pleasant at all. A family of 4 and 3 others were butchered as the Fulani militia invaded Makurdi community. 4 family members, 3 others Saturday morning were shot and butchered by suspected Fulani militia at Mbamondu community in Makurdi, Modern Market Council Ward in Benue State. This hits close because I have a sister who lives in Benue State, not too far from this location. And the first thing I thought was, is she safe? It was gathered that these attackers also inflicted serious injuries on 5 others, out of which 3 are in critical condition. It was also gathered that among those killed were 2 children, ages 10 and 12. Our hearts go to the families of those who have been killed, of those who have been injured, and our prayers go to all of those affected by these killings in this community in Makurdi. Our second news report for the day, somewhat good news. I hope it's good news. It's a report. Our first report came from the streetjournal.org. This second report, we're reporting that 400 suspects were arrested for funding the Boko Haram bandits. You all know that I've been saying, as we've talked about this, where have they gotten the guns from? Where do they get the money from? If you look at the image on your screen, you see them with machine guns. And we've been wondering for years and years, how is this happening? Well, we find out that 400, not 40, not 4, but 400 businessmen have reportedly been arrested for allegedly funding Boko Haram insurgents and bandits for over a decade. There has not been clear information on how Boko Haram insurgents have been funded. Well, according to the Daily Trust, the businessmen were arrested in an operation being coordinated by the Defense Intelligence Agency and in collaboration with the Department of State Services and the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Units, together with the Central Bank of Nigeria. The operation was said to have been approved by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2020. This is good news. My question continues. Are they going to stay in jail, or are they going to try to rehabilitate these ones? Because we've heard of people that have been arrested and they're like, oh, we're just going to release them to be rehabilitated and brought back into community. How are these criminals going to be held to justice? We hope that the country will keep us posted on what happens with their trial. This final news is a bit of a long story, and I want to read it in its entirety because I want you to hear the voice and the story of a survivor called Juliana Christopher. This report is from SaharaReporters.com, and she escaped from Boko Haram. We've all wondered, what does it look like when these girls are kidnapped? What does it feel like when they're taken away from their families? Hear the story of Juliana Christopher. Juliana is a student of the College of Business and Management Studies in Konduga. Juliana Christopher, who Boko Haram kidnapped, has said she saw many Chibok girls in the insurgents' camp. She added that many small girls were either pregnant or nursing children belonging to the insurgents. In an interview with The Punch, she said that she spent 3 weeks in the Boko Haram camp. And after the insurgents who were dressed in military uniforms, Nigerian military uniforms, stormed her school in Borno State, they abducted her. She explained that after the insurgents kidnapped her and her colleagues, they took them into the forest where she saw other victims who were pregnant and nursing babies of the Boko Haram insurgents. She said, on reaching their camp, we met many young girls there and the whole place was in disarray. It was in 2014, and I was in the Boko Haram camp for 3 weeks. She says many were carrying children while others were pregnant for the Boko Haram insurgents. In her words, she says it was a disgusting thing. Fortunately, she and some of the other girls were able to escape the forest and found their way back to Chibok. For this full story, follow us on Facebook. We will be sharing the entirety of these stories. But more than that, you can receive an email every week with these news headlines. Now, how can you receive an email every week with these news headlines? This is the way to do it. You go to our website, iconhelp.org, scroll to the bottom, sign up with your name and email, and we will send you information. We want to make sure that we are kept up to date. This is the story. Someone went behind enemy lines and got this information. There's so much more I want to read to you. She had so much to say. She came back, and because of what happened, her father passed away. There's so much to say. But that's all time will allow us. Join us, follow us on Facebook, sign up for the emails, and we would love to get more of these stories to you. Okay. Now, for my guest for today, I'm excited to bring my friend on. Lydia Blaha is the communications director of ICON. She's the communications director for International Committee on Nigeria. She says we focus our efforts towards bringing attention to the 62,000 Nigerian deaths since 2001 due to terrorism. She was also the Millennial/Gen Z outreach coordinator for a nonprofit organization that focuses on bringing attention to the dangers of the Chinese Communist Party. And she's the director of communications for Save the Persecuted Christians, which advocates on behalf of more than 300 million Christians experiencing extreme persecution worldwide. She has served extensively, particularly in the past presidential administration. She was communications director, deputy press secretary for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and was also politically appointed to serve as director of scheduling at the Small Business Administration. And she was also, this is one of the coolest things I think about her. She was a Division I colleges athlete, while she received her bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Colorado. She later on achieved a master's of education in mental health counseling from Lincoln Memorial University in Tennessee. Okay, I could go on and on. That's not even half of what she's done, but just to tell you how blessed we are to have Lydia in the studio. Join me to welcome my guest, Lydia Blaha, to the studio. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I think I should always have you prep talk me before I go on any kind of interview. You make me sound so cool. Thank you.
You are cool. You are cool. And it's our pleasure and our blessing to have you here. So you are our communications director here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How did you get connected? This was when I met you. I was like, this is a fine, American white girl that can be doing anything with her life. You know what I'm saying? How did you get connected with ICON, and what was it that drew you to say, I need to be part of this work?
I was maneuvering out of the political world. God was kind of taking me out of the political world and taking me into the nonprofit world. I was working with Save the Persecuted Christians. Mm-hmm. The executive director there knew the co-founder of ICON, Stephen Inada. Mm-hmm. And they were in DC together, and she was talking to him about me. And he just was like, I want to meet her. And we ended up meeting after the National Prayer Breakfast. Mm-hmm. And we sat down, and it was like instant connection. And he told me about what ICON was doing, the goal. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know the extensiveness of what was happening, of the dangers and the persecution in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So being able to sit down and hear firsthand from somebody who had witnessed it himself touched my heart. And immediately I said, I want to be a part of it. What can I do? And that was over a year ago. So I'm very thankful to be a part of ICON.
Yeah, I'm excited because I wouldn't have gotten to meet you. So that's cool.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, this was meant to be.
Exactly.
Anyway, if you're around, Lydia and I, we make a lot of jokes. Also with our producer, AJ, it's a hoot. So we need to do a backstage kind of conversation. But you said something important, Lydia. You said you didn't know much. And I just want you to shed some light on what do you think the average American's opinion on what's happening in Nigeria is like, because a lot of people just don't know much, and before you got connected you didn't know much. So using
Yep.
your experience, what do you think the average American knows about the religious persecution and terrorism in Nigeria?
Unfortunately, very little. And I knew more than the average because of my work with Save the Persecuted Christians. But when I talk to people about Nigeria, a lot of them don't know that it's the most populous country in Africa. That they just think it's a tiny little country somewhere in the middle of Africa. They don't know anything about it. Then when you tell them it's almost 217 million people, they're in shock. They have no idea. And then when you talk about the persecution or even the violence, it's rare to find somebody who has any awareness. And I don't know if that's because this news is being hidden or if it's for other reasons. But unfortunately, I would say the average American knows very little. And that's why I take my position with ICON so seriously, as I want to help educate the American people on what's going on, especially American Christians, of what's happening with our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, because we're all one family. And if we're not aware that there's an issue, then we can't do anything to fix it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. In your opinion, what would you say is the role that the average American woman, American person can play in this fight? Because the reason why a lot of them don't know about it is because it really doesn't concern them directly. And so what role will you say will be your role, or as just as an American person, to play in this fight against terrorism in Nigeria and the violence that's happening?
I think my personal role is awareness, to bring awareness to people of what is happening. And then the average American or average human role, doesn't matter if you're American or anywhere else in the world, we have to care for one another. And when something has happened, something that could very well be considered genocide is happening somewhere, it is the world's responsibility to come to those people's aid. And so I think that we are close. Some have already said what's happening in Nigeria would be considered genocide. Some say we're quickly approaching that. And I think, the world promised never again would something like this happen after the Holocaust. But if we want to stop a crisis that could even come close to the Holocaust from happening in another country, we have to act now. And so I think the world should be concerned, the world should be aware, and we should do everything we can to put a stop to this before it becomes another Holocaust kind of situation.
Yeah, you speak of the Holocaust, but even just those of us from Africa, think of the Rwanda situation, which was way out of hand before anybody started talking about it. We talk a lot with our audience and about our viewers about getting our voices heard to our government representatives. And some people are like, I have no idea how that works. What does our voice to our American government representative make any difference at all? So can you walk us through how individuals can get their voice heard by their government representative in Washington, with your experience in Washington? Just how does that work from me? First of all, how can they send a message to their representative, and what does that do? How does that play out in affecting what's happening in Nigeria?
Sure. So because of my work in the political world, I feel very, very strongly that our political representatives, they have one job, and that is to be the voice for their constituents, the voice of the people who voted to get them there. And so if a congressperson or a member of the Senate, if they start having constituents, people that voted for them, people that are in their voting block of their county, their district, start reaching out to them, they have to pay attention to that issue. So it is so important for people to become aware of the issues going on in their community, in their towns, in their cities, in their states, and in their world. And then to start speaking up about those things and demanding the people that they elected into these powerful positions to do something about it. So you can reach out to a congressperson's office. You can reach out to a state and local representative or a national representative. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you are communicating. So you can go on their website, you can contact them, email them, call their office. There are tons of open letters that you can add your name to. I know that, I don't know if AJ could put it on the bottom of the screen, but I believe it's freenigerianslaves.org or .com. There's an open letter to Congresswoman Omar that you can add your name to right now to get this congresswoman to start paying attention to this issue of slavery in Nigeria. There's lots that you can do, lots that you can add your voice to feel like you are making a difference and you are having an impact. But the number one thing you can do is become educated on the issues.
That's amazing. I love that. The first part is to get educated, because if you don't know what's happening, you can send as many messages as you want, but without content, nobody's going to pay attention to that, right? So I want to say this before I forget, because you're the one that communicates with our people. And when you sign up to receive information, Lydia is our communications director. You will be sending her directly your information. So I want to just shout out that you can get educated. You can learn more. Just connect with us at iconhelp.org and we'll get the information to you. Switching gears just a little bit. I know that as communications director here at Icon, you have a segment that you talk about called Their Story. And you've highlighted a lot of very sad, important story. AJ is just scrolling through where you can sign a petition. I believe this is the Free Nigerian Slaves, or this Icon Help.
FreeNigerianSlaves.org.
Free Nigerian Slaves website. Okay, so you can literally go and add your name to that open letter online right now. You don't have to wait till the show is over. You can pause and come back. We're gonna be on your YouTube, on your Facebook. It's not going anywhere. So let's take action right away. Okay, so I set up, we're switching gears. You've got to share a lot of stories, specific stories about women, children, and people in Nigeria that have been touched by the persecution that's happening in our country. What would you say is one of the stories that hits you personally the most? I know there are several stories, but what story jumps out to you when you talk about their stories? You've probably heard several stories right now. What story kind of cut you to the gut and that you can share?
Sure. So tomorrow I have a great story coming out about not a great story. It's a sad story, but the ending is encouraging, about a young boy named Paul. I don't want to get too into it. So subscribe so that you can receive the story tomorrow.
Yes.
But in the past, I would have to say Rebecca Sharibu, Leah Sharibu's mother. And the reason why I say Rebecca is because I am one of 7 children. And I see my sisters all have children. My brothers, one of my brothers has 4 children. And my mom, her children are her world, and so I can't imagine the mental, emotional torment Rebecca must be going through every single day, wondering how her daughter is. Is she alive? Is she pregnant with a second child? Is she healthy? Are they mistreating her? And so when I was writing her story, I just started thinking about a mother's perspective. Yeah. And Rebecca's doing a lot. She's going all around the world, talking to different political leaders in the UK, in America. She came out to America, to Washington, D.C., to meet with a lot of the political leaders out here to talk about her daughter's story and having people do something about it. Yeah. So I would say of the stories I've heard so far, Rebecca's really touched me, because, it's a mother who's lost a child, who may still be alive, may not, there's so many rumors, but I just can't imagine emotionally what she is going through every single day, wondering how Leah is doing.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. Rebecca is a hero to a lot of us, because she's not just folding her arms and burying herself in her grief. She's fighting daily for the freedom of Leah. And we're very honored to be able to have talked to her, to be in contact with her. She's a powerful story. Like Lydia said, if you would like to receive these stories, these are stories of individuals that have personally experienced the religious persecution, violence, and terrorism going on in Nigeria. And it invites you to enter into their world. Why? Why is this important? This is important because if you cannot put yourself in their shoes, you may not fully grasp the weight of what they're going through. What AJ is showing you is the bottom of our Icon page. It's iconhelp.org. You scroll to the bottom of the page, and there's a little form that says stay informed. You just need your name, your email. There's not much information being asked there. And every month, Lydia, is this every month?
Yep, I put out their story once a month, and then you will also receive a monthly email basically informing you of what Icon has achieved the previous month and what we're working towards the future months. So
Awesome.
it's great.
Yeah.
And
And
a
this
lot of good
also gives
information.
you, does this also give you access to the news items?
The weekly news.
Weekly?
Yep, on Mondays, every single Monday, we send out about 3 to 4 stories, which then you read on your podcast. So you can stay up to date on what's happening in Nigeria, basically up to moments before the email is sent out.
Wow. Wow. That's wonderful. So how can our Nigerian viewers who have their own stories and are going through their own experiences of this terrorism, some of them are watching us right now, and shout out to all of our viewers watching from Nigeria. I have family in Jos, family in Benue State that are experiencing these terrorist activities daily, weekly, and stuff. How can they get their stories to you to be featured, to get their stories to the world, pretty much?
They can email me personally. My email is lydia.blaha@iconhelp.org. I have a form that I've created that I would send these individuals that they can, it's not a long form, maybe 5 or 6 questions asking about their stories, and then a picture. If they could send a picture of themselves or their community, or if their home was destroyed, something like that. We don't ask for too much information, so it's not overwhelming, but please just email me personally, lydia.blaha@iconhelp.org, and I can get you the form. And then maybe you'll be featured in one of their story emails.
Awesome. Awesome. The email is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. And if you get us your story, you might get your story in their story emails, but we might get to interview you here as well on the podcast. So please, you may not have the story personally, but you know somebody whose story needs to be featured on their story or on this podcast. So yay, for those watching from the UK. I just got somebody who is watching from the UK. Thank you for joining us from the UK. We're excited to be able to get this awareness all over the world. Lydia, before we go, we have a few minutes. I always ask, first, is there hope? And what is your prayer? What is your hope for Nigeria as you encounter this from almost like an outsider looking in? What is your hope? What's your prayer for Nigeria?
There is always hope because we serve a good God.
Amen.
So yes, there's absolutely hope. My prayer for Nigeria is freedom from the bondage of terrorism, of violence, of fear. I think a huge thing, understandably, that a lot of Nigerians face is fear of being persecuted, fear of being attacked. And so I pray for a breaking of that bondage of fear over them. I pray for freedom in their spirit and their minds, and to have hope. Because faith is the substance of things hoped for. So we can't let go of hope, because once we let go of hope, then where's our faith? Yeah. So I just freedom of all the bondage, because Nigeria is a country I would love to visit one day. I've never been, but my heart is with these individuals and is with the difficulties that they've been through. But there's hope, and there's a lot of people around the world that's fighting for Nigeria's behalf. So that alone should give them hope and peace in their hearts.
Amen. Thank you so much. We will be taking you to Nigeria soon. We'll need to rectify that. Yes. And thank you to all our audience. I saw Nkechi watching from Lagos. And for everybody that has joined us today, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. You can continue to stay in contact with us. Follow us on Instagram at IconHelp1. Follow us on Twitter with the same handle. Follow us on Facebook and find out, learn more. You can read the book that has all the research and all the information. You can download the book. Go to iconhelp.org. My name again is Priscilla Ozedo Acevedo. Thank you, Lydia, for joining us. We have been so blessed to have you. I imagine we will have you back a few more times in the podcast.
I would love it.
I'm loving this. So
thank you for having me. It was a joy. I'd love to come back anytime.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a blessed week. So you heard it from here. Join us. Join the fight. It doesn't matter who you are and how connected or unconnected you feel right now. You can make a difference. Step 1, share this. If you haven't already, you watched it. That means you can share this We are continuing our campaign on hashtag Speak Up for Leah. Speak Up for Leah. Share information. You can share this with the hashtag Speak Up for Leah, hashtag Speak Up, hashtag Free Leah. Whatever hashtag you want to use, we want to get this viral. We want to get the president using this hashtag, okay? We want to get all of the country using this hashtag, just like Free Our Girls went viral. Leah's birthday is coming, and what kind of birthday present could we give then getting this hashtag to go viral? Hashtag Speak Up for Leah. Share this video, share all of our content. We're constantly sharing pictures. AJ, if you want to throw up some of the information, we give like all these snippets of information on Instagram and on Facebook, like statistics and all the little things like the one you're seeing. We give those on Facebook and Instagram. So if you just want something little to share on your page, hashtag Speak Up for Leah, you can do that too. You can put all these little snippets on your page and just say a little bit. You can share this with your church and have a Bible study discussion on how your church can stand on behalf of persecution in Nigeria. Okay. We're at our time. I'm so blessed to be here with you. Again, my name is Priscilla, and it's a joy to be your host here at the HTV Icon Podcast. Have a blessed rest of your week. God bless you.